Hello, everyone. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training where we're pushing the technical boundaries of at least what we've ever done here before. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of FMTrain.tv. I am at the Jericho Mountain Fire in Helena, Montana. I've never been to Montana before, but here we are. Anyway, very, very exciting. So today is I was going to wear my hair. I do apologize. I got deployed with the hawk. So upcoming broadcast schedule. So you can see the hair right here. I can tell you from personal experience that getting the hair, we'll see if anyone wants it, the Amazon link. If you get Todd Geist grade hair, Automatic and Auto Deploy and OttoFMS work about 10 times better. I can't account for why that is, but that application knows if you have long hair, and if you don't, like you're bald or some shit, you may be out of luck, right? Just warning up front. Let's see what else we have going on. Let's see. So yeah, upcoming broadcast schedule, training bundle subscription. If you want to help pay for Jacob's time, Margaret's time, and all the people that make the live streams go, can you please purchase one of the training subscriptions? You could say, well, I want to be a Patreon subscriber, which basically means that we say, thank you very much. Thanks for the cash. I'd rather give you something of value for it. So that is the training that we have. It's really, really, really awesome. And it continues to be an ongoing effort that we have. So yeah, so very, very exciting here. And so today's conversation is, so if we rewind real quick to how did we get to where we are? So today we're going to be doing a deployment of a FileMaker solution where we have a development copy that we're editing and working on. And then we have the customer's live copy, and we've made changes to it and we want to make it live. Now, Todd Geist went through all this, and a number of you were afraid to say anything because you didn't want you're intimidated by his hair. His hair is truly beautiful. But in reality, a number of you came to me behind the scenes, including Margaret, and they said, that was really great, but Todd thinks at the speed of light, right? Like Commander Data in Star Trek, that android that's Todd, the android Todd. He goes at 5,000 miles an hour. Todd could have presented a third of the material over the week, and it would have been still plenty because we're still processing what he said. So what we decided to do, we try to reenact the crime. We're going to try to reenact a deployment setup ourselves without any direct supervision. We told Proof Guys explicitly they were not invited for any reason. They're not allowed to be here, especially no one with long, beautiful hair. That's outlawed. Cannot have that today. So it's only for people who have questionable hair issues, right? So, Margaret, are you ready to attempt to learn?
Sure. I make
make no promises whether you can absorb it. Yeah. Margaret is an excellent parts of her are very intermediate engineer, but parts of her kind of on the juniory side of intermediate. Depends on topic. She started doing API stuff and she understood it, did it, which is definitely kind of a mid-level up in intermediate step. Good for Margaret. So I have high hopes that we're going to learn this today. And so Jacob, Taylor, we should probably frame the conversation. Can you bring up our source and our target a little bit?
Yep. I've got prod and dev, if you will.
Okay.
They're both hosted on the same server though. So
okay. They're both on the same server. Now we're going to go through this, but I've done this in a very worst case scenario.
Yeah. And
it does work. And so the idea, so here's Margaret, can you bring just for a moment, let's bring up the diagram. Can we bring up the server diagram that's on your desktop? If you just want to share,
back,
yeah, do that. It's that on the right over there.
Do you want me to have both the mock data up and then the one that was deployed onto, and then also put an ETS server basically?
I put it on ETS so we can have two servers. I think it's the most dramatic that way. Although you can do it with one server. So here's the diagram, everyone. So what we have is we have a FileMaker server. In the previous iteration of what we had two servers with Todd Geist. So I think we're going to try to do the same thing today. While I'm doing this, Jacob Taylor's going to kind of rejigger what he's doing. But we have a server that we do development on. We have a server we do production on. The development server can be crashed. It has more flexibility in terms of what's going on with that, in terms of it not having to be continuously perfectly reliable. I mean, it should be, but if the developer server goes down, who's going to scream except you, the developer, right? So the idea is that the production server is the holy grail. We don't want to touch it. We don't want to mess with it. We don't want to run this process in the middle of the business day. That would be bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to have up here in the top right, we see one server, Margaret. If you want to, I don't know if I can I draw? Let me draw a little bit over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw. So we have one server, and we have two servers. So instead of one being server, there'll be two servers here. One's going to be dev with a D, and I can't draw very nicely. One's going to be a production server with a P. So our goal is to, first, make sure that Jacob's all set. We identify a file on the dev server. That file structure we want to move to the production server. We want to keep the production data. So the user data user's been using, their data is going to go in the new version of our file because we don't maintain that, right? So we maintain this in our devs copy. We have the structure, the scripts, the relationships, all the non-user data stuff. So we call that schema or structure. And the data, the end user data on the production server, we basically, there's a FileMaker file there that they're probably very similar FileMaker files for the most part. But the data in there over here, we want to preserve the data here. We want to bring the file over, a clone of the file, suck the data in. In the old days, we would write a script to do this. The script would go table by table, was highly fragile, and sucked. Starting back with the release of FileMaker 17, Claris started playing with this technology and making it so they could do a bulk operation and make this happen rapidly. So that's kind of the history where we got there. Automatic is a free product by Proofgeist, people with beautiful hair. Proofgeist, the beautiful hair people. That's their tagline. They took the basic. This is a command line tool, and they basically made a wrapper around it, and it automates this, and it's amazing. So are we all clear on what the training exercise? Okay, back up, Margaret. Between the questions on the internet and you, do you have any questions yet on this?
No, you basically explained the production server and the dev server that you put stuff onto, and that historically it was very archaic in the transition from dev to production.
So what's on the dev server?
The dev server is the file that we're working on as developers.
Okay. And what's on the production server?
The one that the customer is actually using.
And so that's probably an older, out-of-date database, right? I mean, the user data this is the master data over here, right?
Yeah, but the best data, most up-to-date data will be on the production server. But in terms of like actual database schema and design, the one on the dev server is going to be the most up-to-date version.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we'll quit sharing here. We're going to jump back to Jacob Taylor. Are you, Jacob Taylor, ready to kind of try to move this forward?
I think so.
Okay. So what are we looking at right here? I'm gonna let you talk now. I'm gonna let you, because you've got
what I have in front of me is all available databases and all available auto deploy files on both servers. I was going to do a same server demonstration because that's actually what a lot more of our clients are going to be using.
Really? We could do that. We can do that. We could totally do that. Yeah. We could totally do that. I mean, can we take a quick vote for people who are actually paying attention to this? How many of you would put a development file on a different server, or would you put it on the same server? Probably. But there's no reason you can't do either one of those. Either one of those are valid.
Yeah. So do we have, there's good arguments in favor of separating them out. And in general would encourage it, but it's more money. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of my clients, they do stuff on the same server.
Yeah. In my case, I only have one server. I only have one server.
Stop. Yep. We're going to do the one server. So Jacob Taylor, walk us through the two files that are on the one server.
Sure. So, not this one actually. That is the ETS copy. I pre-fluffed it. It's got 5,000 records in it, whatever. Okay. These are the two that are labeled on screen are FMSP dev and FMSP prod. They're the same file actually currently, so we should probably make a change to one of them before deploying it, just for demo purposes. But let's okay. And I don't know if you want to do this now or not, but there's a sample data file that we have on Dead Bird that's like 50,000 records or something. Would take 2 seconds to import that. Put that in the production one if you wanted to. You don't have to share your screen if you don't want to. Margaret can take that back over briefly, or you can, or do something. Yeah, that way people can see the data had moved, right? So, it worked good. Just type the word sample.
All right.
Like data
And
sample.
yeah,
There's like
that
56 of them.
there,
Is it this one?
that's actually that one. Scroll down. Okay. So how many records do you want to do a quick import on? Like 50,000 or five? I didn't matter. Whatever
I
you
don't
want to
know.
do. Okay.
Like
It's pretty,
5,000.
yeah, just click export. There we go. Okay, that's there. That's there. We can import that. I think it's contacts. So just put them in the contacts table if you want, or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, we'll go here and then
File imports.
import
Yeah.
records from file.
And you can loosely match them up. That's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little data. We're going to add records. And Jacob's going to do a little jiggering up there. First name, last name. Well, those
First
are good.
name, that's reasonable. Company's not.
Yeah. So just you can type yep. Nope.
No, account.
Account name. So in starting point, everyone, we use the word account name, not company name.
City, county.
Yeah.
Yeah, province, basically.
Yeah, sure.
State.
That's fine. Home state.
I think it's.
Try that one, whatever. It's fine.
Something, I don't know, whatever.
The point is that the data is going to come over here and we have a bunch of records. So yeah. So Margaret, questions about what we're going to do. So we have a production file, which is what we're going to load some records in.
Yes.
Then we're going to go to the dev file and just lay out, and he's going to put like a, I don't know, red box on it or something so we know it's dev. Big three big characters that DEV on it.
Yep. All right, that's close enough.
Okay, hit import. Okay.
Just do import. See what happens.
And it's going to suck in 5,000 records. And this won't take very long, trust me. All right. So real quick question from anyone on Margaret, from your perspective or anyone else's perspective. So we're doing that. So Jacob, while this is going, can we log into OttoFMS on both servers? Do we have to have one server, right?
The deployer or the website?
Well, I don't know. You tell me. I mean, I've only done this now. This will be my third time attempting to do this.
Let's see. So if we do stream, this is OttoFMS. So
OttoFMS is a service that runs on the FileMaker server with the server. OttoFMS is Mac, Windows, or Linux, so it runs on any of the servers.
Yep.
And so in this case, we're going to use so Otto deploys the main file that we use to set this up, right? Is that what we need to do, Jacob?
So OttoFMS is the admin interface that can do some of the same things that the FileMaker server admin console can do, but it also administrates and can view some of the deployments and stuff. The actual programming in of the server, the dev and production files, source and destination, whatever, that is done inside the auto deploy file. I can't touch that until the import's done. So
okay, great. So that's kind of motoring along. You can bring that back to front. But this for those of you who missed this last time. So Margaret, it's still going. Go back. It's still moving. Let's just take a moment here. So this has a lot of overlap with the FileMaker server web interface. Okay, the FileMaker server web interface doesn't do everything, but it does a lot. It shows that, Margaret, you log in all the time. You see the name of the people, the databases.
I fuss with the admin console pretty regularly.
Quite a bit, right? This does all that kind of stuff, but it does more things, okay? It has some neat things in it. One of the things is that has all the services, all the little programs that run on the FileMaker server, and you can forcibly, without using the command line, stop a service, restart the service. And it's not uncommon. Jacob has other experiences. Some of this he can talk about, but it's not uncommon to have like the script engine on FileMaker server. It's like we had a customer that would run a script automatically in the server every hour, and the script would take over an hour to perform. And if you understand what I just said, it means that it'll never be done, and it'll always be backed up in the stack of scripts that it has to run. So eventually, the FileMaker script service crashes. It dies and goes away. Is the script service on here? Which one is that on here, Jacob? It should be
at the top. It's this one.
That right there. So that right there. Okay. So PSOS, perform script on server, is a command that pro sends a server. It runs a script. That PSOS that runs it, it's running on this service. This is an invisible copy of FileMaker Pro, essentially running on the server. You can't see it, but it really, if you mentally think about it like that, it behaves just like a copy of Pro. Okay. If that service dies, we can come over here and restart it. It's awesome. Okay. That's still going. The other thing that was really great about this, we could download and move files without closing them down.
Yes, I saw that. I was like, oh, nifty.
Margaret immediately wanted that. So file browser, you can come over here, double click in here.
There we go.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
because I yank files regularly for stream, and I always have to close the file down and wait for them to finish using it, and then kick people off who are floating around in it. It's very irritating.
And so now this allows us to download from the backup that was written. And once again, that feature is not part of the FileMaker Server Administrative Console. So we can get the live copy. We can get a backup from a prescribed time and bring it down. Does this have the ability to restore, Jacob, too? To restore the backup? I don't know if that's in here yet.
I don't think it is not.
Yeah.
So how do I answer that question? Yes, I think so, but not here.
Okay.
So we have not set up this, which would allow the answer to that question to be yes.
Okay.
You have to set up the offsite backups. They have to have run. You have to obviously thus have one to pick from. And then I believe you can do, I don't know if it will do a full-on replace or if it does the thing like Claris Cloud does where it puts it side by side with your existing things. But yeah, I believe you can do that for some definition of doing that. Yeah.
Okay.
They'll let you. We haven't set up the offsite backups and stuff yet.
Okay. That's fine.
Testing that stuff, but
all right. The last thing is the log, and so there's a log viewer in here. So as the FileMaker server is doing stuff, it writes a log. This is an intelligent, professionally looking log. And that's because the folks at OttoFMS are professional developers. Okay, so yeah, why don't we just do a thing? So
we'll do a side by side.
Side by side.
So
we're looking for a problem, and it takes them 5 or 6 lines of data to display one horizontal line of across. Okay. Someone or worse, look at that. Look at that. Yeah. Now go over to the other one just to take a look at that, what that looks again. Now scroll to the right. Scroll to the right. Or to the see how it and there's a lot there, but you can read through it. And that one line is one event, period. So you can do it, you can look through, you can look for certain code numbers, things like that. So Margaret, which one would you prefer to use?
The one that I can read.
The one you can read, right? Yeah. So that's another bonus.
There it is.
Oh, okay. So
I knew they gave me a button. Yeah.
It makes it slightly better here. Is that what they did?
Yes, they gave a button that has collapsed the sidebar. So I don't know. Instead of now I can't click. It's not doing anything. I love that.
You broke FileMaker. The Java probably.
I broke Chrome or something. I don't know what's happening here.
Okay, that's fine. It's not essential. On it. How are we doing on our import? We should be close on the import.
We're done. It's bonking at me.
Okay, great. So we have 5,000 records here. This is going to be this is the master data. Now let's go to the dev file and just put like a giant 32 font something DEV on it, so we know that we are here at dev.
Go contacts and contacts. Sure.
Yeah, sure. Why not? The other thing to do is when you're looking at these, show the status toolbars on them, just because people can see the number of records overall. So yeah, dev giant. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah.
Put it nice and center. We want to make an absolutely ugly.
Orange. Yeah.
Oh wait, no, not fill color. I'm sorry. Hold on, everybody. I need
color. That.
I want the text.
There we go. There we go.
I want angry red. There we go. Beautiful.
Okay. Great. Okay. So this is our development copy. These copies are essentially very similar, but in practical development, you might do a week's worth of work or a month's worth of work. It wouldn't be radical surgery unless you were really gutting and rebuilding your app.
Yep.
Okay. Now we did do that on my side, and we're going to show that data and explain to you what happened with it. But we want to go through and do it here. So we have opened up. So before we were on the FileMaker server looking at the OttoFMS service website. We saw that. That's this. Okay.
Yep.
Now that we also on that server is another little free file that's part of this setup. It's called Otto deploy. It's a FMP 12 file. So that's a FileMaker file, right? So the Otto, the guys proof people use their own dog food, eat their own dog food, which is great. They built the solution FileMaker. So we're going to open this up. If we want to open, hey, if you're in here, you can actually, you don't have to, we're in here. We're open it. Okay, great. So what is a deployment, Jacob? What is a deployment in your words? How would you describe that?
Deployment in every other context using all of these tools, it would be a migration.
Yeah.
And so that is a combination, and they have there's a lot of things here, which is why I'm going to speak generically. But it's a combination of the clone of a development copy of a database with the data of a production copy of a database. And those might be only barely different because what you're fundamentally doing is shipping a bug fix or unmessing up a layout as we're going to do here in our demo because I've put some graffiti on it and marked it as a development copy in all red just to make the point. But essentially, that's all you're doing. So you're going to take whatever your potentially some development changes, that could be script changes, layout changes. You can add and remove fields from a table. You want to be in general, just to make the tool's life easier, you want those changes to be, I'll say, smaller rather than larger. In other words, checkpointing your work often, shipping it quickly into production, especially for users to test it honestly. But sort of that commentary aside, you can also do horrifying things, which is what we will show at some point here, which is our giant mock data file where we took like this brand new version of FMSP and combined it with we have a pre-fluffed out mock data copy that's got like five or some odd number of million records in it, but it's a really old version of FMSP. It's version 5 or something. You guys will recognize it when you see the old the old layouts once I post it after this, but it's just an old copy, and we spent hours and hours generating data into it so that it would have it's like 15 gigs of data. So it's like, you need to know that, oh yeah, the migration happened. It's there. So to get at least this part going, so again, we're gonna at least start with a same server deployment, if you will. So this is where the development copy and the production copy are on the same server. So we're going to take servers.
I'd like to request that Margaret ask questions in flight while we run into the questions or whatever happens, right? So
sure.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
So we're just going to put stream.rcc.com in, which is because that's our server thing. Server label. And this is cosmetic.
So we're telling the deploy file, which is going to manage the server that both the source and the destination are at. Okay.
Yep. We can.
So
it has an inline. So we have to have an API key. These are for it's like the Otto admin API, the OttoFMS admin API, which kind of sits on top of the FileMaker server admin API. But it means that you can manage those things independently, and you don't. And like the thing with the admin API, the FileMaker server admin API specifically, is you log in, you get a token that lets you do stuff for a short period of time, just like the data API actually. If you're familiar with that, you get like a 15-minute token. And so you can do stuff. Great. You can change settings. You can, pull stuff, whatever. Bringing that out to an OttoFMS admin API token lets that be unrelated. So we can have the Otto admin API token, and that can just sit there. We can have that for like a year, and it'll go in and get a new FileMaker server admin API or whatever as necessary. And so it's just it hides it from us, so we don't have to care.
Cool.
Makes sense so far.
And then I don't know what the admin console credentials for the server are.
I can send them to you.
Let's find out if they're going to validate it. Hey,
Good
I guessed correctly.
Nice.
It didn't Yelp. Must be fine. All right, so we're going to hit save. So we have our stream FileMaker server. It's read out the OttoFMS version, which is, I think, the current latest version, unless Todd got in there before us and has shipped a patch release that I'm unaware of. We're on the latest FileMaker server here. We have our host information. All that looks great. So now that we have both an admin API key, which is probably, if I go back to this thing and then I go to API keys, or this is the OttoFMS, yes. So we're going to go to API keys. And then boom, there we go. This is the one I just made. Except it's
Nifty.
got 8 p.m. because it's Linux time, but
Oh, okay.
whatever. GMT 0, whatever. Anyway.
Right.
So
Margaret questions? Margaret questions?
I mean, I'm following at the moment. There's a question from David. Previously installed OttoFMS in the server, auto deploy in the computer running FM Pro.
No, auto deploys on the server. But yes, we did previously pre-deploy them. When you install OttoFMS on the FileMaker server, when you go log into the OttoFMS console, to bring it back up, that is this thing. It will have a auto deploy, and that will be a one-click button. It will shoot the auto deploy FMP12 from wherever it is on their server, S3, I don't know, somewhere out on the internet, and it will shoot it onto your server for you with default credentials, which is why it's yelling, because we haven't changed them either. You should not be like us and change the password, please. It's a good idea, but we're going to check all of this at the end, so it doesn't really matter too much.
Yeah, David's asking a question because I remember installation. So I like to use Mac servers, but Mac servers are not really Amazon cloudy kind of Mac servers, right? If you want to do that, you're going to use Windows or Linux. Linux is all command line all the time, so you have to be in love with that. With Windows, was there a Windows double-click installer? Was that for this, or was that a command line on Windows 2, Jacob? Do you remember what they had for their installer?
It's all command line for all of them.
Okay, but there was a Mac.
There was a double-click Mac installer. I don't know if they built a Windows one.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering about. So because Todd happens to be a Mac guy, which makes, he's always going to make sure that we have good features for that. So yeah, so getting it installed, not terribly. Here's, okay, important link, docs.ottofms.com /good hair, right? And then you come over here.
So command line, so there is an installer.
There's an installer. So you just run that.
Yeah, so if you need a double-click experience, it's available. Yep.
Nice. Okay, good.
So, yep. All right. So we have our admin API key, which lets us do admin things. We're going to go back over here. We don't have a deployment yet, so we should maybe get going on that. We're going to do a new deployment. We've created a new record. I see this.
Let's give it a name. Let's give it a name first, because we always
miss that. we did that last time.
Yeah, and Todd did it too. So there's a UI problem with that not sticking out. So yeah. Call it deployment 1, just so we put a number on it. So it's like 1. So if we come back later.
Sure. Okay. All right. And then we're going to do this. And so we're going to say, we're going to pick the server. Is it going to let me select my source and my destination? Is it 2 servers? Oh, and then you add a file. That's right. All right. So same server deployment. This would be, so if we were doing it the other way, in other words, with multiple servers, we'd be here and we'd have stream FMS and like whatever, production or some other. So we're going to go here. We're going to click into this thing. It saved all of our changes. Wonderful. Figured I'd do that bug test just to find out. So we're going to do default options, set up default file options. I like this. Account name. We can just push it. Yes, we can. And we don't have an encryption key.
So, yep.
All right.
The encryption key is for ear, right? If you have ear enabled. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And only actually this auto deploy file has an ear on it. On this server, I think, currently.
Yeah.
I find that an interesting choice by them, but it doesn't matter. File migration options. So destination in this case will be the production file, right? We move the clone, that's the structure and the layouts and things, the scripts, from the development copy. We have made a change to the production copy. We have lots of data. Okay. We're not going to reevaluate field calcs. We're not going to rebuild indexes. You could. This one's actually cool. We're not going to use it.
Okay, so
I want to play with that before we go.
Margaret, that's a Nick conversation. That Nick should run that show. So if you have a clone of a FileMaker file, or if you create the very first moment you create a brand new FileMaker file, when you have a clone and you open up, we call a fresh clone. It's a clone. A fresh clone is a clone that's never been opened by anyone ever before, ever. It was saved, and you didn't look at it. You didn't open it up and not do anything.
Don't even breathe too hard on it.
You can't breathe too hard. It's it's like a sterile package at the hospital with a needle or some shit in it, and no one never touched by human.
Yep.
So, wow, it's pouring here. So I don't know if Smokey Bear still has fires after it all rains like this. This is crazy. So, so it's sterile. When you open a clone up or you create a new file, it takes the localization of your copy of FileMaker Pro and applies it to that file, so it knows that you're in France, and it knows what currency you probably use and like that, date, time formats, things like that. It adjusts that. So that's why it's always hard to just press a button and have a copy of starting point change and do pounds sterling or Russian rubles or some other, because the only way to do that is to make a clone and have the person open the clone, which as a personal experience thing sucks. It's like a horrible thing. And that has existed since I came to the platform in 1990. It's been that way since the dawn of dinosaurs had just left the earth. This was still a thing. So that's all this shit is. So, so just so you know, we're not going to mess with that. The other thing now, Jacob, I just had a epiphany over here.
Mm-hmm.
Don't change the destination locale, because I think that's what threw us the other day when we had our test that failed. When you were, install op, it was a subfolder. It was a subfolder, that one down there at the bottom. So I'm not sure if it's a bug or we didn't understand it, but I'll get into the big test. That was the one
thing that was different. Okay.
That was the one thing that was different, because you were Jacobing it and then it went boom, right? So yeah. So let's go ahead and hit, if we're done with the minimums.
Anyway, yeah, we're done with this thing. We're gonna hit save. All right, so we've got our default options set. We're not going to close additional ones. No, we don't need to run a post deployment script. This would be cool if we were going to, actually, I don't even know. Yeah, you'd run like an import or something to fluff out, or the thing I was thinking of was if you did an actual clone of FMSP for this locale concept, you'd have to import the preferences table or something, like, because that's what would be missing if you did a real clone. Anyway, push build to destination. That all sounds great. All right, so we're going to add some files. We're going to add
these are source file. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Save.
Okay.
And then
the name on now it's red up there with an error because it can't have the same name.
There it is.
Everyone see that? Do that. Go back to that, Jacob, real quick. Just put that back in there. So Margaret, okay, now it's test time. Margaret, tell me, what is this from this screen? What is going to happen?
It would just.
Okay, so start up here. I'm going to do my pin. I'm going to cue you along to help you. So we're starting. What is? Don't move the screen. What is that?
That's the sources of the
and they're the same.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, so it's nothing's going to happen because like it would just overwrite itself, wouldn't it?
That's why the error is here with the same name.
That's why it's red.
That's why it's red. That's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure people miss that subtlety. So you're on the same server. We're not using it's all.
We messed that up previously.
Yeah. So the name will be production or whatever it's going to be. Is there a production file currently?
There is. Yeah.
There's. So we're going to name it, and then
prod. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if we click on migrate just for fun, replace. So it wouldn't really migrate the data. It would just copy and move it. That's a copy and move. And then I'm not even sure what install.
This one will be a migrate because
we're moving the data.
No, because we are moving the data. We have data in the production file. We have schema in the development file.
Yes.
That I don't think will change actually. But the additional things that you can see on our little drop down here that we have available to us, the replace and then the install replace. So if you wanted to deploy, as in migrate, not the technical term of combining the clone and the data, but literally migrate, like take the dev file and push it to production.
Yeah. Let's copy. Let's
overwrite the existing one.
Copy and push and overwrite. So that's what that is. So all that is, Margaret.
That's what the replacement
is. A copy from point A to point B, which actually in and of itself is an awesome tool that I can see a million uses for.
Yes. Yeah.
But everything about. Okay. Yeah. There we go.
And you can schedule it.
Yes. Stop. Okay, Margaret, let's do this again.
Okay, so which one is the one that would delete all the data, which would be bad?
There's no. Okay, so let's talk about this. So we have a development copy of starting point
Yes,
that we're
and that
making notes
goes
of.
that we're taking the schema and pushing it to production.
Let me run. Okay, let me just. I'm going to say one thing, and then you have the question. Okay, let me just be clear. We're going to take this file. We're going to make a clone, which will strip all this data out. You'll only have the schema. Then we're going to take the data from here only the data. We're going to take the schema over here. We're going to throw it away. We're going to take the data I had of here and add it to the clone of the schema over here. This becomes the new file, which will be named that right there. That's what migrate means.
Okay. And replace means what?
Replace means take this file and delete the shit out of whatever's over here and just delete and just copy paste.
Okay, so that's the data delete. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So migrate is a migrate. This other one is nuke and replace. It should say it nuke and replace.
Nuke and replace.
Yeah. That's a better name.
I could see that if you had like a library file or something, like where you've got stock data that it doesn't really change, but you need to push a new one because while it did change on the development server, you got to push a new one out. So then you'd use something like a replace where you'd say, all right, 7 p.m. nobody's going to be on. They're all done for the day, hopefully having their delicious adult beverage, perhaps. And you're going to have it shoot the data from the development server, the fresh copy over. You get in on Monday morning and say, oh, yeah, great. It went perfectly. Fantastic.
Okay.
So,
all right, cool.
You want to clear your red?
Oh, sorry. My drawings
defacement?
are my defacement.
Yeah.
Wow.
Defacement.
That's a strong word. Whoa.
David is migrate will transfer only the schema.
Yeah.
So migrate.
Short version, yes. Yep.
Yes, the short version, yeah. The schema moves over and the data is
So
kind of still there.
So we have our server, we have our one deployment, which I'm going to click on here. This looks good. We have a migrate picked. Fantastic.
Yeah.
We're not doing a file override, not doing a post deploy script. We're not doing any of this other stuff. So we're going to do review and deploy. All of these things look great. We are not going to put, this is a good one actually, just to remind us, close files no, which is close all of the other stuff on the server. For example, like I said, if you're trying to push a file out where it's like a library database or something like that, you may wish to close all the files on the server so that they don't become out of sync.
Are you sure that's all? I don't remember this even coming up. I mean, I'm sure it did, but is that all? Is that what that means?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, close files. So if I go back, hopefully this all works. Yes, it does. There is this, close additional files on destination for the duration of the deployment. So while the migration's running, you can make sure everything is down, in this case, we don't care.
Just check it. Just see. I want to make sure it's not being selective. Let me see. Additional. Okay. You can select the files you want to close.
Yep.
So it can be all of them, or it could be selected ones. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I was want to make sure all seemed kind of concrete. So yeah. Okay. So it's close some files if you want. Whatever.
Potentially some.
Yeah. Some. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Great.
Yep.
Let's go.
And the value here is you're selecting these files now, and this is saved as a deployment. You can run deployments multiple times. So once all of these things are programmed in here, so if you have a solution set, I'll call it, just to use a fancy term for it, you have a file that you're going to migrate in this case, and some other files that are part of this solution, which is why several years ago they started trying to talk about it like FileMaker solution instead of FileMaker database, blah, 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 whatever, because it can be a multi-file solution. So, but you're only going to change one of those databases. You want everything to be down, so you can come in here, say, all right, I have my dev copy, I have my prod copy that's got all my data in it, fantastic. But I've got several other accoutrement databases that come with it, or they're separate modules from an older build or something like that. Fine. You can mark them all in here so that those are closed down at the same time. So you can ensure consistency across all, even, you're in the middle of a rebuild basically, right? You can ensure consistency across all files. So,
okay, good.
Turn that back off. We're going to do review and deploy. Still good. We're going to push the build. We're going to do a just-in-time build instead of a build it now and come back later build. That was a whole discussion with them. Because you can like pre-build it.
Okay.
Under some circumstances where that makes sense.
Okay.
Right. Whatever. Anyway, so we're going to do it now.
So we say start.
Okay. So we're doing now. So we have this. We are, yeah. See, it's yelling at me. We're going to close now. I'm going to get out of my own migration's way.
Margaret, questions?
In this case, you've installed OttoFMS and auto deploy into the same server.
Correct.
Correct. You install OttoFMS, and then there's a button in OttoFMS that just auto dumps a copy auto deploy in there.
Yep.
Oh, does it tell you the list of changes that it's making, or is it just
Yes,
letting
it
you know
does.
it's okay?
Nope.
Yeah,
It just zoomed by with a bunch of changes.
And it's
and we got our confetti. Beautiful.
Okay. Yeah. So now what we need to do is go to the server and find the FMSP production and see if at the top it says development server in red, obnoxious red. So there's the dev copy. We know that's
so there's
a
the dev copy. That one worked.
It has.
So then, and then the one I got kicked out of was the prod copy, right?
Okay. Yep.
Let me locate. Thinking.
Okay.
Nope. We're gonna log in as our super secret.
Oh, so it didn't need to close the dev copy? Interesting. Okay.
No.
Because it made a clone while it was still running.
Ah, okay.
All it did was make a clone.
Here's my there it is. I'm sorry, it's over on the other screen.
Okay, now go to contacts and show the
so we're going to go to contacts, and now we should have
5,
development copy and
the
5,000
5,000 records. Yes.
Yep.
So let's pivot real quick onto the ultimate ugly moment.
Oh yes.
So why don't you show?
Which one do you want me to? Yeah.
Show the original mock data if you can show that. And we're not going to do this. We're going to talk through this. The original.
Yeah, give
ugly,
me one moment. I know you're
Captain Ugly.
There it is. Yeah.
Okay, so this was the.
Nope.
Oh, you moved it. You moved it to. So you moved it.
Is it closed?
Richard,
what did you do? I'm blaming you.
I didn't do this actually. It was.
I know. Richard, what did you do to my database? He's like, I've been flying planes.
Yeah, no, we're good. Let's see. So
it is literally.
Oh, it's closed.
So Jacob closed it and moved it over.
Thank you. Yes,
that's fine. No, not a problem. But so here's the thing. We have to make a copy of it to make and move it, right? But with OttoFMS, there's abilities and deploys have to move things while they're live, right? Or copy them while they're live. So
we may actually use that in the future because then I can stop SSHing things between servers.
Yeah, that would be really great.
We haven't gotten there yet.
So we did this demo. Let's go to again. Close these other ones out. Just open up.
Mock. There we go.
Okay, so this file is one that we've used for live streams for like 4 years. It's an older copy of Starting Point. It has a ton of additional tweaks to it, and it has millions of records in it. So if you go to contacts, it's almost 900,000 records, 800,000 records. Go to invoices, there's a 1 point something. And then line items is 5 or 7 million. This thing has like 10 or 15 million records. It's got quite a few gigs. So we took this old ass file, which was Starting Point, and we said, use this file as the production file with the current data and take take a brand new copy of Starting Point and try to glue it in. Now you're talking 4 years of development where we're cleaning the tool, doing things to it, never with the intention of trying to glue them back together. We said, Otto sucks without long hair, but we have the new hair now. Let's try this again to make us beautiful, right? And the first time we did it, it plainly didn't work. It took 3 hours, and when it was done, the migrated file looked like the original file untouched, right? So it didn't work. So what we did is we went back and I tried it again, and I kept all the base settings on it, and I ran it, and it took 26 hours. Now you're like, oh my God, 26 hours. Okay, how many of you are going to do 4 or 5 years worth of development and then go, oh, my customer should get this, press a button and hope for the best? That should never be a business process any of you are going to have, but it's a really good fire test for automatic. And the second time through, it did
worked.
It worked. And so there's an investigation as to whether at the time we tried it the first time, it didn't work. We did not have the long hair. There's a question of what level of
the long hair may have been necessary.
Yeah. What level of beauty does that help the code run it properly? I'm being serious, but we had no idea why it went the second time. We made that one little change on the destination folder, and And I just walked off. I left it. It was a Friday. I walked off and left it. Came back Saturday evening or the next day or some Sunday, and it already confettied. There was no confetti left in it. So if you want to open it up, you can see it with all the bajillion records with the new design. And Jacob's going, this is much prettier because it hasn't been munged by me running a live stream, running a TV show.
Yeah. And so that's all of what's on screen right now, just in case anyone's confused with why we have 17 different windows. The top FMSP mock data is the blue. This is the original. This is where the data actually originally came from on DBW13, which is where we store our masters.
Okay.
And then this FM starting point 25 USS X11, which just has a few records in it, basically. I think maybe 5,000 or something. This is your, in air quotes, development copy that was used for that migration. It does 5,000 records in it because I generated a few records, basically. And then that is the good one. And then the beautiful one is this one right here, which is the combination of the billion records over here and then the beautiful layouts over there into one combined file where we have almost 800,000 contacts. And I can just zoom down here and pick one of these randomly. And I don't know, there's notes generated and all this stuff. It's just fluff text, but just to demonstrate the concept for everyone, that's how that went. And so once it was done, rather than having to do, as has been classic in FileMaker for at least until data migration tool was produced by Claris, manual per table, imports and exports and stuff like that for each kind of record. And so if you have accounts and estimates, line items for estimates, invoices, line items for invoices, projects, whatever, and these are just the basic menu tables. If you have millions of records, you have a huge problem, as in a massive labor cost to migrate the new versions in, or if you do the other old style of development where you basically, proof out changes in a development copy and then manually replicate those into the production copy of the file later. Okay, that was kind of the other way to do it. Those are all very laborious. And with this, maybe schedule it. If it's going to take a long time, schedule it for a weekend, maybe. But you can click buttons and it will migrate everything for you.
Listen, everything reasonably here in a normal business sense, because Todd was horrified that we would talk about a 26-hour deployment. I said, if you're the kind of guy, and I mean this, savings. Yeah, well, it would take a week to do this by hand. Yeah. Okay. To do that equivalent job, at least a week or 2 weeks to do it by hand. It did it in 26 hours. That's not reality. Most of us are not going to have 4 years of development that we're going to say, oh, let's just give it to the customer. What I'm saying over the 4 years is that our file changed a ton. We deleted fields, we added fields, we renamed fields. Let's talk about the technical execution. When the files largely match, it does a block transfer copy, which is just a huge, it uses 12 or 20 processes in parallel. Yeah. It's fast. If you have a bunch of file name changes, you change the name of the file change name of the field name changes, or you add a field or delete a field or things like that, or you have the old name, you have a name like company name, you delete that field, you create the new field in this development copy called account. Or maybe you give it the word company name again. The thing first tries to find the hidden ID, Margaret, of the field you don't see. And if it sees that and a matching name, it knows those are a match. If the names are changed, so it said first name, but now it says F name because we want to do F name, not first name. Well, the ID is the same, the name's different, but it's still a good match. Now the IDs don't match, Margaret. They're totally different fields, but they have the same name. Company over here, company over here. Okay, well, it's a little sketchier, but we're still going to call that a match. It has to analyze. When you get really crazy in restructuring the file, it does it on a record by record basis, which means this thing had to do that analysis 15 million times, thereabouts.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but do you want to do it, or 26 hours of letting the stupid Otto robot, beautiful hair
do it
application
for you?
do it?
Yeah, I'll let that do that for me. Thanks.
Yep.
It's not,
and that's why we say realistically, that's an intentional torture test of the tool.
Yeah, we tried to break it. We tried to break it.
See if you can really screw it up. And basically it didn't actually.
Yeah,
credit I think that was literally everybody involved.
Yeah. It worked.
But also in a more usual usage scenario, again, you're going to have 5 or 10 scripts updated, a few layouts. You're shipping a new module. You might even post a whole new table in there somewhere, or a couple of them. Fine. But if it's a straight line addition to the solution, with some calcs that need filled
15,
out,
20 minutes, maybe.
sure,
Maybe.
yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. If Dave used to work for us, and so before any of these very cool and click things and schedule this and automate that and whatever, when it was just a command line utility only, this is the FileMaker data migration tool. This is what this is running under the hood. I made a command line script for Dave to migrate a customer, because they do a yearly accounting changeover, basically. It's got to be coming up here in a couple months. Actually, I'm sure I'm going to get that email soon. But once a year, they do a year named database system, basically. And there's a few different things they change. There's and so they can get certain improvements per year. But anyway, whatever. So one of the years when Dave was still working for us and still doing this, I built him a script to do it. And they had quite a lot of data, actually. It's not a small solution. It's not that much, but they keep everything for 5 or 7 years, so it adds up. Short version. But so producing the New Year's file is not that bad. He clicked, the whole thing took, I don't know, he ran it twice on accident and it took 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Because that's a more normal, that's why I want to give you guys an example. That's a more normal runtime. Again, these guys don't have that much data. It was only a couple gigs of record data, but it's all record data. It's nice, tight, thin tables. They're not fluffy. The stuff that's indexed is or the stuff that's supposed to be indexed is, and if it's not supposed to be, you're not searching on it. It's not, it's a reasonably well done solution in that sense. And so what you're really looking at in a scenario like that is how quickly can the data migration tool copy the data across, and that is CPU core and do you have an SSD, basically, conversation. That's it. It's as fast as your computer can get the job done. So and so in a more normal non beat test type deployment scenario, that's going to be what you're looking at. You're going to spend most of your time clicking to configure this stuff and then hit go.
Yep. Hit go.
So
yeah, it'll take, so 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe, if you had something really gnarly, an hour. But we seriously torture tested. Todd said, we've never heard of anything taking 26 hours before. I said, Todd, you don't hang out with Richard when I don't have any hair. I can blow shit up. Jake and I can both melt the planet. So yeah.
We have a question. Does deploy also migrate the external data folders?
What does it mean, external data folders?
I'm assuming he means container data, right?
Those aren't referenced or relevant, related at all. So that is actually an interesting side thing. Those aren't touched. Those count for this context. Those count as record data. So if they're in your production file, they're going to get copied and pasted over using the process Richard just outlined, with the IDs, and then the same ID, different name, fuzziness, etc. There's a whole chain of logic that goes there. And so for a container field, that's how it's going to be treated. If it's externally or internally stored, that is just, do you need to copy the image because you're copying data across, or you've got a PNG in there or a doc file or something. And it's stored inside the FMP12. So in that case, for example, an internally stored container data, yes, you'll have to copy the data. If you haven't done anything to that table or records, or then it's just, like we said, a copy and paste across. So you can make it faster if you don't store it internally. That's a random detail. But if they're externally stored, those are basically, there's I don't know how FileMaker actually stores it internally, but basically it has a pointer, a text string that points out to the relative folder that item is stored on disk. And those are, again, that's just field data. From this thing's perspective and in this context, that's just field data. The actual container data is like the documents or the images or whatever, right? Whatever you're storing in FileMaker that are outside the database aren't actually touched in this process. So
because we're rolling a new copy of the database on the production server. So the
Correct.
directory of the external container data is already sitting there. It's already waiting
Correct.
for you.
Yeah.
We're just updating the FMP12 file.
The only question I would scratch my chin and have to think about really is like what happens if you delete that container? Like that's your development change, or something like that.
Then it would do a record.
Will it clean the files up for you? That I don't know.
Oh,
right.
Internally, if you deleted it and it was internal, it would do a record by record analysis, find the ones that deleted, and it would dump that. But for an external container, and say,
that's why I'm like, I'm not certain what it would do. My suspicion would be it wouldn't actually touch the externally stored files. Obviously, it's gonna, if you tell it to delete that container field, it's going to wipe that out of the actual
field
FMP12.
Would be gone, but the external containers might still be there. Yeah, that's a really good.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't, of course, someone on the show will have that challenge, but just generally, you're okay. Generally, it works fine and it's wonderful, and it hasn't been a concern. All those photos showed up, right? Mark data. Is this the new one right here?
It is.
Go back to the first 1,000 records.
It's the first 1,000 has. Yeah.
So we put. They might be internal though.
Yeah, Pepito has one.
Yeah, all the pictures came through. So. Yeah. Cool.
I don't know what those are. Let's find out.
Is that an internal? That's probably that's
probably container photo.
Probably an internal container. Probably because it came. Remember, Starting Point ships with its container set internally, so people who are beginners and beginners don't have to worry about getting the FMP12 file separated. If you separate the baby from its mama, everyone's unhappy. They're internal. That's internal.
Yeah, they are.
Cool. It would say, So, yeah.
I wonder if they would come over if you did a replace versus migrate.
Replace should. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna carpet bomb the whole solution.
That should bring everything over. So if you have externally stored, in that case, you're talking about externally stored container data as it relates to the development copy or the development hosted file.
Yeah.
But not on a different server, for example. But in that case, I would expect it to bring it over. Yep.
Yeah.
That's just a replace. So.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Other questions? Does this make sense for people? Because it's kind of important. Now, here's the thing. First time you try this by yourself, you're not going to wear the hair and it's going to fail. It'll be a little confusing. And I mean this once again, hair or no hair. It's the first time is just like, And then the second time through, you start to get a better, and the more you do, it's like proficiency in anything. You get comfortable with it.
And I want to show, so this is our stream server. So we're going to do why is my clicking not working? Yeah,
there we go.
Deployment 1, beautiful. All right, so this is the other thing I wanted to show. Well, it's after 2, so we can wrap it up at some point here. But 32-second deployment, not bad. So we're going to go in here. So this is our summary. Everything basically was successful, and our 10,000-foot view. Queued, did its little things, copying, did this, blah, 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 does all these little things. Deployment was successful, yay. And then we get our confetti. Okay, cool. But
go back to, go ahead.
I was say, but there's a detailed log, and that detailed log includes the entries from the data migration tool itself. So you can see, this is what Richard was talking about with mapping the using the field IDs and that whole thing. So there's not too much to say here because this was we changed one thing on one layout. But again, if you were changing fields between tables or adding a new module to your solution or something like that, there would be more to read here that would be like useful information about it trying to line up different things or going, oh, this is a completely new field. Let me just and blow the data in. So
Jacob, could you go back to the one that we think, because I see where you think it's 26 minutes, but I was like,
it's this one.
So click on that. Let's just look at the log on that. This is the one that finally eventually worked. So he's saying it's 26 minutes. Okay.
Yep.
Can you hit the detail log? Let's take a look at the log. The detail, hit that button there. Okay. So start scrolling down.
So you go down.
So keep going. So that's 26. Keep going. Go. So that says 26 minutes.
26 minutes, 57 seconds, and 980 whatever. Who cares about the milliseconds? I also do not care about the milliseconds. That's why I think it finished like
We were having an argument because so here's the problem. So this is what the problem with the hair. Go back one. Go back with the hair.
That's a
So
real one. Sorry.
Yeah. So go back to
That's the hair one.
The hair. So you'll see the problem with the conversation. So I did two.
This is the one that failed miserably.
And it failed at 3 hours and 16 minutes. So then it finally does it correctly, and it says it migrated in 2026. I don't think that was 26, but we could try it again for someone who's bored. I mean, it looks very much like 26 minutes, like 26 hours. And so that is so fast. So anyway.
That one, 28 seconds, and then it sits there, can't find any of the relevant. Oh yeah, because we added QuickBooks after this. That's real. And then at an hour in, it checks in again to write another bit of log.
Yeah.
And we're scrolling.
Right, well, I have to jet
because
I'm going to let you guys go. But Margaret, if you want to wrap up, but yeah, pretty good topic, eh? And if we can, yeah.
Anyway, this is what I was talking about, just for the people in the audience. This is the like thoughts and ideas about matching up the fields and that kind of stuff. So it'll show you, hey, I can find a match one, or what the level of complaint it's going to give you as to how hard you're making its life. Again, that's why I impress upon the audience. You want to deploy early and often. I'll just say as a kind of a closing note, one of the things that Todd noted during the live stream series is that as a result of having this tool, because they have their own hosting service and all that kind of stuff, as a result of having this tool, they have some other SBA clients, which is like us basically. Like we have FMSP Enhanced and a bunch of people that build their businesses in that basically. They Automatic Cloud or whatever they're called, have a selection of clients now who do big, a stampede of basically Saturday deployments, because they're 9 to 5 Monday through Friday businesses generally. And so they, do programming during the week and do some little cleanups and fixes and their development copy of the solution that they have. And then they have hundreds of clients. And so on Saturdays, whatever the latest development fixes are just shipped out to up to and including hundreds of servers, hundreds of different client deployments, and they just fire them all. And they don't do it like simultaneously; it's in series. And they did that. He talked about the rationale for that, and situations you might just spam 100 clients because it's all the same solution and you don't really care. If one of them fails, that one gets rolled back. Okay, fine. But there's also a discussion about like chain deployment and stuff. Again, more relevant for SBA people. Solution bundle agreement. You're selling FileMaker bundled, a FileMaker solution bundled with FileMaker, as a combined unit, if you will. But that's like, if you can think of anyone who might sell a FileMaker database, like they have a very cool tool that has been built in FileMaker, and they have 100 customers, 100 businesses that buy, have bought or pay for access to this thing. You could then use a tool like this to push regular and routine updates. Sure, bug fixes, yes. Improvements that your clients complain about, you get some client feedback sometimes, and you go implement it, and then you can give it to every client. So that works really well.
Sounds like it works wonderfully.
Let's see, 2 different dev teams, 2 different dev files that migrate to one production file. I don't know the answer to that question, but I would probably advise against it in general, because most of what you're going to be describing there is the problem that you'll have is that you have most of this stuff really essentially works with one master. Like one master copy of the database, one master development version, something like that, where like the issue that you'll run into is that if you have 2 of those, you'll have unreplicated changes between one or the other of the development files. So again, like in the situation where you have 2 independent development teams, one's working on one module and one's working on another. If it's actually so clean as the example I just gave of one is working on one module and one is working on a different module, that actually could still just be working inside the same database. And so there wouldn't even be a reason for them to be separate at all. And So if you're in the situation where you have two independent development teams working on two independent development copies of that file, you actually have two problems, and that's your lack of I would just say your lack of coordination of the development that's happening there. And I would cite that as larger than the limitation of the tool not being able to support something like that, because the issue essentially that you'll run into in that case is, again, unreplicated changes. So when you push from a dev copy to a production copy, could be multiple production copies, but it's always one dev file to up to a number of production copies. It's the development clone. So if you have dev team 1 has made a change and it's not in dev team 2's copy of the database, but dev team 2 is the one that pushes into production, that's the copy that production uses. So it's going to miss a fix or a change or whatever from dev team 1 separately from whatever module they might be working on. There's a future set of changes that it's worth addressing here, because they're not in the product yet. They're not in Otto. Sorry, I should say the product. They're not in Otto yet. There is also a FileMaker patch tool. I think that's probably the wrong name. My apologies. I'm likely naming it wrong. But it's the app upgrade tool. I think that's the actual name for it. It lets you actually do that, which is like clip out, like on a piece of paper, clip out, like you've got little lines and you're you're in third grade or whatever. Clip out a module from your database and like patch it into the production file, where you can give it directions on what kind of indexes need to be built and stuff like that. That exists. Claris built it for us. I think there might be some issues with it, and it's getting better in the next version of FileMaker that's due out this summer. But after that happens, and because I think at that point, the app update tool or app upgrade tool is then shipped with FileMaker Server specifically. Like that's the real prerequisite. We don't want to be distributing binaries, because you need like 7 for all the different platforms or whatever. Once it's included in FileMaker Server, I think Otto will be able to allow us, and he was cagey on the stream about whether it would be a paid feature. I can understand why they might make it a paid feature, but they might let us administrate that tool from Otto. That would be a future version of this thing. You didn't need to update, et cetera, et cetera. But what that'll let us do is something a little bit like that, where you have a couple different development teams and they truly are work separately, say different time zones or continents or something like that. But they need to each, say, push a module into production. And so they have a development copy of the production file, and it doesn't matter if there are unreplicated changes between those two, because what you're actually going to do is slice off the new module layouts and scripts that they just created and then shoot those into the production file. That is what the app upgrade tool is for. And it's much more like the add-ons, like a deployable add-on. It's a lot closer to something like that. And so we're going to basically have a few different options here in the platform, as in the FileMaker platform, where we'll be able to push a small change, like fix a script in the production file. I don't mean replicate the change, but like you rewrote the script because it's better now, but you're only pushing a script. So you don't need to run a giant, you don't need to remigrate everything, do all this stuff. Okay, no. And that may be infeasible because the file's gigantic or something like that. Okay. But we'll have a tool that is with the app upgrade tool. We'll have something that's a little closer to that, where we can take a small fix or a small module or something like that, push that into the production file. That's cool. And then the step larger is the actual data migration tool, where nope, we are taking a fully formed clone of a database and combining it with the fully formed production data. And then whatever needs to happen to make that work, again, with the field matching and potentially generating indexes and stuff like that. So we're getting very close to, honestly, to having FileMaker be like a more modern development platform. That's been one of the, one of the interesting things of working here is I started out with FileMaker 14, 15, 16, and none of these things existed really. And Claris has given us a bunch of little tools that then some of the, like this, like Otto, the consultancies have built things on top of them where that administrate the tool that Claris provided. That's how I refer to it, as you're running the tool that already exists essentially. So we have stuff like this, which lets us do the data migration tool. At some point, we might have an app upgrade utility of some kind. Again, I don't know if it's going to be built into this, what that looks like. That's a whole other conversation with a company that's not even ours. But like those are things that will be available to basically everybody. And depending on whether these guys, Proofgeist, makes that a paid feature, it may actually be deliriously easy to use, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't think they're even going to really have the conversation until 22 is out, because we don't know what's happening until it comes out, to be honest. So I've been working in FileMaker long enough. You find out on launch day what's happening. So
yep, you figure out then and only then.
Yeah, it's been great. Of late, they've been letting us know in advance sometimes. Previously, it was maybe a day in advance. That was lovely. A heads up was great. Occasionally, we got like a week. Hey, this thing's coming out Tuesday. Good to know. And now it's like the partners are being more fully included in the release, and we get little packets, and they're preparing little press. What do you call those? When you have the logos and stuff and descriptions of the features and things like that. So we're getting there. There's always been a long conversation with Claris and their ability or inability to talk to the public. And I think that's been I don't say it's good, but it's been improving over time. I have to give credit. So, but yeah, thanks everyone for attending. I don't see any Discord questions, at least.
Not particularly. I think we're good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Seriously, I appreciate it. All right.
Thanks everybody for attending. Have a great weekend. It's Friday. Yes. It's Friday. Yes.
Yeah, it is weekend. Friday. Yeah.
Enjoy an adult beverage if you
partake of such things. Yes. Bye, everybody.
No.